The African American Legends series highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas as varied as politics, sports, aviation, education, business, literature, and religion. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they had been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Glenda Self, Director of Project Hire at the great Bronx Community College, and Van Thompson, Project Manager of SKANSKA USA Building. Glad to have you with us today, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Glenda, you've done some wonderful things up at Bronx Community College. Tell us about Project Hire.
Okay. Project Hire is a skills training project. We train men and women for careers in building trades and property maintenance. I've headed the program for the last 25 years.
25 years?
25 years I've been doing this.
You built a lot of buildings.
Well, the reason why we came into existence is really a continuation of workforce development that actually began during the New Deal, during the Roosevelt administration. But it's had several manifestations since then. The ones that I can remember are the manpower programs, CETA, JTPA, and currently, I don't know if they have a name for it, but it's going to be ARRA, A-R-R, American Recovery Act. The way we do it at Bronx Community College is we train adults only, and we train them on the campus in the old mechanical engineering building that used to be NYU. And our students build full-size apartment units from the ground up. The only thing we don't have is tenants.
That's really amazing.
Yes.
Now, you call this Project Hire, and the name of it is that because when you get your training, you get hired.
Exactly. We call it Project Hire because we are there not to just issue certificates. We're there to put people to work, for them to get hired. And we call ourselves Project Hire because it means helping re-entering employment.
Now, the funding for this comes from state sources, federal sources, private sources?
Well, for the last couple of years, it's been from a city agency, DEP, and the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees most recently were our funders.
That's really interesting.
Yes,
now,
it's been very interesting.
Then you work with corporations like USA SKANSKA to help the people who you train get into the job market. And Van Thompson, you are the project director of the Building Blocks program at SKANSKA. Now tell us about that program.
Well, that program has been in existence in the New York area for the last 4 years. And the intent of the program was to reach out into the communities where SKANSKA works and kind of have a program where we can expose and educate different minority contractors to different aspects of construction. Everything from construction law to scheduling to estimating a project to doing work with public entities and public agencies. We have it's an 8-week program where we graduate the students who go through the program and they receive a certification that they've completed it.
Now, the students are people who have businesses or people who want to have businesses.
Well, that's
in
interesting.
The construction industry.
Because the intent was to have it where people who have businesses, because SKANSKA wants to grow their database of minority contractors. And this was one of the ways of doing that, this Building Blocks program. They go through the program, and then we also have, at the end of the program, we give them information on how to become pre-qualified with SKANSKA, because you have to be pre-qualified to work with us. So we get the graduates from the program, and a lot of times some of them aren't ready to take that next step, but the ones that are, we try to get them into our system and into our database so that they can bid on projects that we're working on. It was interesting at Bronx Community College in that we had a lot of individuals who didn't necessarily have businesses, but they were interested in starting businesses. So we opened the doors to those people as well, so that they can also understand what it's about to work in the industry that we all work in. And we had, I would say, maybe 65 to 70% of the students there were individuals. And we've had success stories with the individuals where in previous programs we've had individuals get hired by some of the minority firms that work with us. They've actually hired some of the people that have gone through the Building Blocks program. SKANSKA also hired one of the individuals from two years ago that worked with SKANSKA on the CUNY project in New York. So we've had success stories on both ends, but the intent was to bring contractors, people who have businesses in place and are looking to take it to that next level, work with the larger CM firms and do public work.
Now, the context of this is that many large corporations work in minority communities.
That's correct.
And many times the people who work there are not involved in the business.
Right.
Particularly in the construction industry, which minorities haven't been in for a long time because of unions. Now tell us, how do you work with the unions on this?
Well, we work directly with the unions. SKANSKA is a union shop in terms that all of our projects, we have to go through the unions. All of our labor that we have on our projects are union labor. So we have a direct relationship with them. One of the things that we stress in our program is that when a contractor, a small business wants to do work with SKANSKA, they have to be able to sign up with the unions in order to do work with us, because we're a union shop. We can't hire individuals who aren't working within the union. So those are one of the things that we try to stress that. And sometimes it's difficult for small businesses to get into that arena, working with the different unions and so forth. And we try to work with them to go about doing that. So yeah, we have that.
Now, at Bronx Community College with Project Hire, do you work with unions?
Yes, we do.
Now, which unions do you work with?
Just about all of them. We have currently students who have been with, who are currently with Sheet Metal, Local 28, Local 79, Local 731, Local 1, Local 15, Local 30.
Now, do the unions participate in the training, or they participate in the hiring, or they participate in developing the curriculum? How do you work with the unions?
We work with the unions by referring our candidates, our students, at appropriate times when the unions have a call out for a new apprentices. We send our students out, and because we've been around for so long, they're pretty familiar with us. Most of the unions are familiar with us. The head of their training schools are pretty much familiar with Project Hire. So we get the announcements as to when they're going to be offering apprenticeship opportunities. We send our folks to the apprenticeship opportunities, and fortunately, many of them have been very successful. The other day, a student came by who has now been with Sheet Metal for 18 years.
One of your students?
Yes, and he's very proud of the work that he's done, because he's been able to move his family out of the Bronx, bought property upstate, has a son who's graduating from college this year. So there are many success stories like that. We're not a huge project. We're very small.
How many students do you usually have?
Usually we serve about 60 a year.
But practically all of them get jobs as a result of it.
No, it depends on the market, because as you're probably quite aware, construction is very sensitive to market trends. When the market is up, placements are excellent. When the market is down, placements are down, because we place them we don't just place our students in the construction jobs, we also place them in construction-related industries like Con Edison, small properties in the Bronx that need maintenance workers. That's why we're called building trades and property maintenance. Our students also do property maintenance, because when the buildings go up, they also have to be maintained. So some of them work as residential superintendents, commercial superintendents.
Well, this is interesting, because particularly in the emerging communities, the construction industry and the management industry hasn't been something that minorities easily gravitate to.
That's true.
In the past, they've been just basically day laborers.
Yes.
Now you have a profession. Now, what caused you and SKANSKA to get into this program? What was your motivation?
Well, we understood that we're working in these communities, and the demographics is such that, it's a changing demographics, and we're trying to be, SKANSKA is trying to be a more proactive company and working in that diversity area in terms of getting individuals from different backgrounds into the construction industry. We're actually in a transition mode, SKANSKA is, in terms of diversity within SKANSKA, and as well as our outreach programs that we do, such as the Building Blocks program. Excuse me. It's exciting on the SKANSKA side because I've been with SKANSKA now 6 years. And 6 years ago when I started with them, it wasn't like that. I mean, we were into the area of diversity, but we didn't really have a hold on it. But now we're starting to move it. We're starting to do more things within the company, within the communities in which we work. I'll be working with our Diversity Council in New York and New Jersey, so I'll be...
Now tell me about this Diversity Council. You said there's a Diversity Council. Now what is that?
Our Diversity Council is a council that's created within SKANSKA. It's internal employees, and they volunteer their time to work on this council. And their main objective is to integrate diverse programs within SKANSKA. The employees that work for SKANSKA, they're looking for a more diverse field of employees. We go out to different colleges and recruit at minority colleges, at HBCUs. We do a lot of work at CUNY and Bronx Community College. We're looking to do some outreach there in terms of students who are in the engineering field and construction field and want to go into that field. So
now specifically, what are some of the skills that people who are going into the construction industry need? What are they?
That's interesting because when you say construction, a lot of people have a misconception that you're talking about a hammer in your hand and you're hammering a nail. But SKANSKA in particular, you can have an accounting background, you can have a business background and work for SKANSKA. So we're reaching out to different aspects or different areas within education to work for our company, a construction management company. So it's not just, it's not a labor type thing. It's, you have a degree in business, you can work for SKANSKA. Our human resource department, we have a diverse human resource department. So, and you have that type of education, you can be very, very successful.
Now, going back to Bronx Community College, how do you recruit your students? What qualifications do they have, and what kind of actual education do you give them? What courses do you give them?
Okay. We teach them the basic skills that are necessary in the construction industry.
Which are?
Demolition, framing, carpentry, sheetrocking, plastering, laying floors of different types, putting in building systems like the bathrooms and kitchens.
Now, how much does reading require? How much reading do you have? Do you have to give them reading instruction before they do this, or mathematical instruction?
Yes, we do. We use the reading and math of the trades. And what that does is it helps to bring up the literacy levels in reading and math. We do not require a high school diploma. If you do not have a high school diploma, because we are at a community college, and Bronx Community College has had a history of providing and improving literacy. So our students are able to take advantage of that, and we've been pretty successful in getting those who do not have high school diplomas a high school diploma while they're also learning the construction skills. So we incorporate literacy, which is work-related literacy, and in the instruction, and the students do the work. They put up the apartment units.
Now, who are the instructors?
The instructors are, currently we have 2 instructors who work in the field. They've worked in the field previously. And what they do now is they teach. They teach what they learned in the field.
Now, what do? You give them a blank space and some lumber and some pipes to say, all right, construction some power. Who does that? You don't do it.
No, I don't do that. We use the mechanical engineering building on the campus. It's called Bliss Hall. And we have this huge open space. And in this huge open space, the students build a duplex apartment, and they also build 2 one-floor apartments. We break them up into teams. We try to simulate as much as possible the actual work environment. The students are there for 30 hours a week. They have to be at school at 8 o'clock in the morning. They sign in as if it's a construction site. They must also wear the same gear because safety is crucial in construction. They wear the same gear that they would have to wear on a construction site. They have to wear the hard hats, the protective goggles, the dust masks, and they also have to wear the heavy shoes to make sure they don't injure themselves. We teach the safety rules first. They have to learn safety first. And the students in a current cycle then demolish, because demolition or deconstruction. Deconstruction is very important in this industry because we teach the students to conserve as many materials as much as possible because it's expensive. And also too, with the push on green, conservation is very important.
Well, this is interesting because you have the nexus between education and the job market.
Yes.
Now, after they get trained and they go through building blocks, how many of them get hired? How do they get hired? How do you go to that next step?
Well, that's interesting with the building blocks program, because Glenda and I talk about that all the time. You know, we've had a group of students that have gone through the building blocks program. And the intent of the building blocks program is to provide opportunities to bid on projects that SKANSKA is working on. So my goal, my objective, now that I've gotten students through, I want to take them to that next level, get them pre-qualified with SKANSKA.
What does pre-qualified mean?
Well, they have to be able to, they have to show a financial wherewithal to be able to handle the projects that we work on. We don't want to set up a contractor to fail, so we want to see exactly what they can handle in terms of finances. Once we determine that, then it becomes the project teams on an individual project. It becomes the project team's goal to set up the bid packages so that they're enough. It's not too much for them that they can't handle it. We have to analyze the scope of work and understand what the contractor can do, and then put a package together that would be successful, so that they can be successful on it. So we put it out on the street and they bid on it, and we know that they can handle it because they've been pre-qualified with us. If they're not pre-qualified, then they can't bid on those projects. So
now, how many people are usually pre-qualified when they bid on these projects?
We have, several hundreds of contractors within our database that are pre-qualified. Now, there are different levels of pre-qualification.
Tell me now, this sounds like a big operation. Now, what do they actually bid on? What kind of things do they bid on?
Well, depending on the scope of work. I mean, you have contractors in the electrical field and the carpentry field. So we set up packages in those different fields or those different areas of construction so they can bid on it. And the packages are set up small enough or large enough that we know that they can bid on it. And we determine that by that pre-qualification status that they're in. And there are different levels. You can pre-qualify for as little as $250,000 or up to over $1 million worth of work with us. But there are different levels, and they have to show different levels of their finances.
Now, who coordinates all this? You?
Not me personally. We have a whole department that does that, and they deal with the pre-qualification process with SKANSKA. And once that is determined, then that's filtered down to the different projects, and then the project managers and the project execs who work on these projects can look at this database and say, okay, I have an electrical package here that's worth $500,000. I'll pull a list of names that are pre-qualified at $500,000, and I'll give them the information, the bid information to bid on the project. So we kind of set it up that way. We won't get a guy who's only bid at $250 to bid on a package that's $500,000, because we know that might not be successful.
Now, this is very interesting. One of the reasons why you're here. How does the public know about it? How do people learn about this?
Well, yeah, that's also part of that process where we have to get the information out. On different projects, we have our website that lists the different projects that we're working on. Depending on the owner, it may be an agency who has a website that lists the different projects that they're working on. Once they see that, then they can reach out to SKANSKA directly. We give them information on how to reach out to us directly and get that information.
Well, if somebody's watching this show and says, look, I'd like to be involved, how would they get in touch?
They can go right to our website.
What is your website?
It's www.skanska.com and get some basic information. Then we list the different projects that we have, and they can tap in and scroll down to the different projects we have.
It tells you which projects are being done,
right,
and what kind of projects they could bid on.
Exactly. And if they, then their contact information for individuals. There may be a project manager's name and his email information or telephone number that they can actually call up and get information on.
Hey, Glenda, this seems like one of the best kept secrets in New York.
Well, Dr. Brown, one of the things that we do know is that small businesses create most of the jobs in this country. And one of the things that we want to see happen is that the workforce needs to be diversified. And we need to diversify the workforce in terms of how income is generated as well. just like we're looking, the president is talking about looking at breaking up the banks, making them smaller. All this, it's about income distribution, breaking up some of the huge companies and develop small businesses that can be more than mom and pop operations.
How do people learn about that? That's what I'm talking about. I'm watching the show and I want
Sure.
to become a construction manager.
Right.
How do I find out about this?
Well, you find out about it by calling Bronx Community College for the skills training, because we've been around a long time.
Okay, give us the number.
718-289-5589.
And that's which project
That's
hire?
Project Hire.
Okay.
But to get back to this issue of creating new jobs, new job creation is the biggest challenge that we have, because right now in this particular industry we have a lot of people out of work, and the folks who are sitting on the bench have to go to work first. So the key is developing new jobs, and one of the things that SKANSKA has been trying to do with the Building Blocks program is to create a new group of employers. We have the employees, but we need employers.
Now, the employers would be the people who own the businesses
Right.
and need people to do this work.
Right.
And they
Right.
have to be supported. They have to be developed and supported. And the development of them, we can do it through SKANSKA, through the construction management courses that they're currently offering.
In other words, it's a two-step process.
Yes.
One, people have to get the training. Two, they have to have opportunities. Three, we had to have minority and other contractors who will hire them.
Right,
Exactly,
right,
exactly.
right. And we set up meet and greets where we have the larger GC firms meeting with minority firms. We were very successful with that at one of our projects where we had a meet and greet of a lot of GCs. There were a lot of relationships were developed, because what we're trying to set up now is where we're trying to have a pre-qualification for that GC who works with SKANSKA. We're in the process of trying to work with that, where the GC has to have a certain minority participation within his bid package that he's submitting to us. So we're trying to create that dynamic where that relationship is there. It's not just coming directly from the small business to SKANSKA directly. There's that GC that's there also that does a lot of work with SKANSKA and has a lot of opportunities for minority companies to work with us.
Well, is there an organization of minority contractors that they can contact?
Within SKANSKA, you mean?
No, in general, in the area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, is there a group of minority contractors who get together and
Well,
talk
yeah,
about
I mean,
this?
what we do with the building blocks, the intent of the building blocks program was to go from borough to borough to borough, and when we do that, and this is how we kind of met up with Bronx Community College, we try to do two things. We want to establish a relationship with a college, and we also want to establish a relationship with a nonprofit organization that has a database of minority contractors. The Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation was that nonprofit that we partnered with along with Bronx Community College to use their database as well as ours, because we have one in place. It's just not as robust as we would like it, but we do have one. So we use our database as well as Bronx Overall Economic Development's database, and we pull contractors from there. And then we use the college as a way of kind of making it certified. I mean, when you have that college name next to that certification at the end of the program, it just means that much more. So that's the intent, to kind of marry that relationship between the three of us, the firm, the nonprofit, and the college.
Right, and the college has the building trades training program. That's
Right,
very well known in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So that was used as the draw.
Now, to what extent do you work with the New York City Department of Employment? Do you do anything with them?
Yes, the New York City Department of Employment refers some of their applicants who come in looking for skills upgrading, because a large portion of the population, especially in the Bronx, is underskilled. And they come through their one-stop centers. They contact us seeking training, seeking building trades training.
Now, how long is the program where they go through the demolition building apartment? What is that, a year program
No,
or
it's
30
20
months?
weeks.
Huh?
20 weeks.
That's a big piece of time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's like a job.
Well, that is really the purpose. Now, one of
Yes.
the things that we're looking at as we look at this diversified workforce, we're talking about people who have been previously excluded either because of segregation or racism or lack of education or whatever. You now are reaching out What is your evaluation of the response to this program?
The response to the program has been fantastic. I mean, we've got some really positive response from the participants. One of the things that I'm really proud of is in the fact that SKANSKA isn't the only construction management firm that offers a program like that. But I think our program is unique in that the level of professionals that teach our course, first of all, they're all volunteer time, and our courses are from 7 in the evening till 9, and it's 2 nights a week. We have professionals from within SKANSKA and also within the industry to volunteer their time to come in and teach different courses that we have. So they're teaching these courses, and I've had students or participants come up to me who have participated in other programs and ours and said they felt that ours was more of a genuine kind of class where it seemed like the instructors were really in tune with the participants, and they were really generally concerned about what they need to do for that next steps.
Well, both of you should be very, very proud of this activity today on African American Legends. We've been talking with Glenda Self of Project Hire at Bronx Community College and Van Thompson from SKANSKA USA Building Blocks program.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Brown.
Thanks for having us.